Nkatha Mwenda had a dream of a promising career in the aviation industry.
Started as a student pilot. I must have been 18, and there was ground school and flying school, and I was there for about a year.
She would later find herself pursuing a course she didn't like, and this pushed her into an alcohol addiction.
I automatically picked alcohol to cope. I would take cigarettes.
After graduating and getting employed, her addiction became worse.
There's no event that I went to America for this company that I remember myself being sober. Sometimes I'd wake up in my room, yes, but I couldn't remember what happened.
Raised by both her parents and growing up with a sibling brother, Nkatha reflects on a childhood that was good and full of promise.
I had a wonderful childhood. We were brought up in a Christian home. I remember every Sunday going to church, being involved in Sunday school activities with other children. We went to a Christian school, and I remember we had catechism or something they call that. It was a Catholic school, and it was a happy childhood. We, my brother and I, very close growing up together with parents who were present, and I can say we never lacked for anything. For the longest, I remember I was an introvert. I kept to myself. And mainly because in that, maybe growing up in primary school, I was very overweight and children teased me. And I remember at one time when we would share about what our ambitions were or what we wanted to be in future, I really wanted to be a flight attendant. That's what we called them at that time. And the children would make fun of me, and they're like, you'll fall the plane and things like that. So I was really introverted. The person who I really played with or was close to was my sibling.
Despite the ridicule as a young girl growing up, Nkatha was keen on pursuing her dream.
When I was teased about dropping the plane if I was a flight attendant, then I just set a new goal, and I said, when I grow up, I want to be a pilot. And so after high school, I had that conversation with my parents, and I had the prospectuses, and I was already telling them where at Wilson mid school. And my father was very chill, and he'd keep telling me, I'll take you, don't worry, yeah? Not knowing that the organization he worked for one of the largest motor corporations in Kenya, and the organization had an aviation, the largest aviation hangar in Africa, and was domiciled at Wilson. So that's the flying school I went to, and it shocked me because all along I was thinking when I was talking about aviation, my parents perhaps didn't have the clue or schools, so that really threw me back in a positive way. And I started my aviation career, started as a student pilot. I must have been 18, and there was ground school and flying school, and I was there for about a year.
Nkatha was hopeful of studying towards a commercial pilot license, but due to financial constraints, she had to go to university to study something different.
When I got into the university, which was not of choice, doing a career in nutrition, which was not by choice, I remember getting upset and annoyed and picking on drugs that I had, or substances that I had started using casually when I was in flying school.
As she continued with her studies, the addiction to alcohol was slowly taking a grip on her.
I automatically picked alcohol to cope. I would take cigarettes. And that became a casual, that became something frequently I would do. If I'm not in class, I'm at the student center having a drink. If I'm not at the student center, I'm in class. And then I would then use in my room. And I remember for those 3 years, I was in university for 3 years, because I really dreaded that school. And when I saw the opportunity to be in campus during the long holidays for the trimesters, I took up that opportunity.
It didn't take long until there was concern about her alcohol consumption.
I did get into risky situations, attempted rapes. I found myself blacked out in different places. I was the talk of campus at one point after the attempted rape. And so it was definitely something that was not good at all, but I must have been in denial. I didn't want to have that conversation because it was uncomfortable in its own nature, because it was highlighting my weaknesses and the things that I'm not doing right. And people who would express their concern, for me, I didn't want to really share.
Nkatha now had her eyes set on employment, and one day at a family event, she edged closer.
I remember being the MC at most of the family gatherings, and I remember going to one, and in the introductions, there was a lady who mentioned she was a marketing manager of this international organization, and some of the products were nutritional supplements. So when I got an opportunity to sit and have a conversation with her, I introduced myself. I told her how I'm the best in nutrition and I can do this and this. And we exchanged numbers. I pursued that lady relentlessly till one day I got an interview and joined that organization as a casual. I would go in when they have events. I would travel with her for events out or around the city and out of Nairobi. And after about 4 months of being a casual, my employment was confirmed.
What would happen in the lead up to her employment confirmation as she met one of her former schoolmates was shameful, to say the least.
We went out and we had drinks, and the time was flying so fast. Within no time it was midnight, and he kept reminding me, aren't you working tomorrow? What time do you report? And I thought, and you mentioned it's a big day for you. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. I was leaving the pub. It has since been demolished. This particular place was known for many years. There's something about that place. You go in, you don't know if it is day or night. And so I remember we were leaving in the morning, and he kept insisting, you can't drive, I can drive you, and all that. He drove me to work, and I told him I'd be okay, and I snoozed in the car, and he was keen. If you really want to go to work, I can just drop you, because I wasn't able to drive my car. And I got to work, and when I sat at my desk, there was a colleague who came and said, hey, Nkatha, you're not okay. Where have you been? You can't be like this. And your boss comes in at 10 o'clock. Just go and rest in the warehouse. She can't see you in this way.
As she lay down in the warehouse, one of her colleagues intervened.
She just told me, Nkatha, I'll take you to my house because look at the warehouse. You're in a drunken state. She didn't mince words. Anything can happen to you, and it's not a good show. So let me take you. I'll just tell your line manager that you had to go home. And so the next day, it was obviously coming back to the office a bit ashamed. My concern was, does my boss know? She pretended that she didn't know, but we had a conversation as to why I was not present the previous day.
For Cyrus, meeting Nkatha and hiring her was a no-brainer, as he attests of how competent she was.
In my first wellness company, that's maybe 20 years ago or so, I was heading the company. I was the director and then later on the vice president of sales. And I needed a very proactive product manager. Did interviews, and one of the people that came up for the interview was Nkatha Mwenda. She was selected because of her acumen, because of her thorough knowledge about the nutrition world, and she became a product manager for East Africa. Her main role was to educate, impart knowledge to our distributors, but not only that, but to also ensure that our programs, our wellness programs, were running well around the whole of East Africa.
Those early days working together were good until things started going wrong for Nkatha.
Nkatha was one person who never failed to even come for a training. She would come in, organize the room, and ensure that the PA system was working, and the meeting would start on time. We would go through our program, whether it was on sales or product training, perfectly. And that went on for a period of time. We started now going for outstation meetings, Embu, Nakuru, Meru, and when we had grown to such a level, we now decided to even include Kampala and Dar es Salaam, and even Rwanda. But after that, I don't know whether it was we overpaid her or not, but we started noticing a tendency of lateness. She would call when the meetings had started, saying that the car had broken down, or she had been involved in an accident, or she had lost her key. There was always an excuse. At first, I didn't realize. I called her for one-on-one meetings to just find out exactly why had Nkatha now changed to somebody who would not come in on time. So when she comes in late, it meant that the whole program was delayed.
This would continue, and it was not long until Nkatha lost her job.
Things got too bad when at one time there was a meeting happening in Embu. She was supposed to go one night before to organize, and the main speaker of the day called me and told me there was no sight of Nkatha. We tried calling her. Her phone was off the day of the meeting, and we were expecting over 100 people. So I tried my best to trace her. We even went to her house. At that time, she was staying with her parents. Her parents had not seen her. And so we had to go on with a meeting in Embu without any organization, no setup, and everything. On Monday, she came to the office. And when she came to the office again, excuses. And she was very good in giving an excuse that you would forgive her. But things now went too bad that we had to release her. We just had to get her out of the company. It was a big loss because everybody in Kenya knew Nkatha Mwenda for her product knowledge. She was one of the best speakers that we had on product.
We are living in a lost and broken world, constantly bombarded by messages of hate and atrocities. But with God, we can overcome. Find hope and restoration on the go through life-changing shows on the Family Media app.
And then you will lose yourself and gain the world. And Jesus said, what good is it?
Get to stream Family TV and Family Radio 316 straight from your phone. Catch up on a show you missed or create video streaming playlists by saving and watching videos from our huge variety of shows at your own convenience. Download the Family Media app, available for all Android and iOS users on the Google Play Store and Apple Store respectively. Family Media, keeping Jesus on the airwaves.
As Nkatha reflects on her working relationship with Cyrus, one thing that stood out is he tried to intervene and they would later reconnect on another job.
He would, give lectures and says, yeah, people drink. People have wine and things like those. But they show up. You don't show up. So he's one of those ones who was really firm. And I worked, by the time I was leaving that first organization, he was the sales, they called him, he was the regional sales and marketing manager. And only to meet him 2 years later, after I resigned from the first job, only to meet him again in another international organization.
Later on, I moved from my first company to a second company and became the managing director for East Africa. And again, we needed a product manager. And while we were talking to some of the distributors, they all had a very good CV for Nkatha and said maybe Nkatha had changed her ways. We took her again as our product manager. And she started well, but this time it didn't take too long to notice that there was some things she was doing, not again coming on time, but now I started even noticing that she was smelling of beer, smelling of alcohol. And she would say, no, I don't know what happened, I didn't drink much. But she started losing laptops. She would come in and say, my laptop was stolen from the car, someone broke in the car and stole the PA system is missing.
I used to finish presentations. I used to do wonderful presentations. I would do great work, and my mind would click. I need to have a drink after work.
One thing that Nkatha was also handling at the time is raising her son.
I had my son pretty early, and had a relationship with a man I respect. We co-parent, and I met him. We just met one of those places I was hanging out. And must have been away from Nairobi, in a place very far away. And we started a relationship. And I knew that relationship would end in marriage, which it didn't. And so I did get pregnant and found myself alone. And I went through that season depressed, annoyed, angry, bitter, vengeful, and I still drank till the last day. And I don't think I've ever shared that information, but it is known to those who saw me and were concerned about me and tried to help me.
With a heavily demanding job and a drinking problem, it was not easy to be present as a mother.
I got my child and brought him up. I had assistance. At that time I was employed. I traveled frequently and I had the help of a nanny, and also my parents would help me. My son was brought up in a dysfunctional setup. When I was traveling, he was in good care of his grandparents, and I really do thank them for helping. Every time I was away, I would take him to them. It usually used to be weekends, so you start sharing on Friday, Saturday. Hopefully I won't drink on Sunday so that I pick my son and he goes to school on Monday. My son missed school on Monday severally because I'd take him on a Friday night or I'd take him on a Saturday, promise to pick him on a Sunday. Sunday, when you tow a lock or are recovering from the drinks from the last night, it ends up into some new drinking, and I tried as much as I could not to go to my parents' house when intoxicated to pick my son. But there's once I did, and it was not a good experience at all.
Such experiences became clear to Nkatha that her drinking was getting out of control.
There's no event that I went to America for this company that I remember myself being sober during the evening activities. We'd get a booth overseeing the ice rink, and you have the cream of the company, the top directors, vice presidents, and Nkatha was just there, the wine with the beers, with the shots. Sometimes I'd wake up in my room, yes, but I couldn't remember what happened. I would wonder, I hope I didn't misbehave. I remember another year, it had never happened in the organization that our founder, the owner of the organization, he co-owned a yacht with Conrad Hilton. So one time, and it's never happened in this conversation, they're saying, hey, Nkatha, you were just enjoying life as we've never been on this yacht. And they took us off the San Francisco Bay to see Alcatraz. And Nkatha was just there on her shorts. And I looked back and I said, Nkatha, you'd have done better, you know. But the drinking had gotten out of control.
Nkatha would later lose her job, and as she was cutting back on her alcohol consumption, she joined an online prayer academy that was running for 6 months.
As I was in the online Bible academy, prayer academy, I was still drinking. And I'd ask God, you see, this is my greatest challenge. I don't like when I drink. Why can't I stop drinking if I'm in this prayer academy? And I remember during the course of the 6 months, there was a lot of dreams. I can equate it to deliverance happens, to a lot of revelation, to so many things that happened. And I would write down the dreams. Now I was writing and remembering the ones that I had before. And in December, on the 24th, I came back from a night out and I had a dream. And in this dream, I saw my local pub. A local pub is a place where you will go and hang out. You probably hang out elsewhere, but this is now the one that's closest home at times. It doesn't have to be fancy. This one was just a dingy, nice place where we would hang out. They had meat, they had booze, they had company. You didn't even care at that time. So I saw my vehicle outside the local pub on the highway, on Kiambu Road. I saw myself in an accident, blood. It's like a head-on collision. In the dream, I saw serpents. I saw bottles of liquor and wine. And God was, in that dream, was telling me, if you continue drinking, you end up like that.
This would mark the turning point for Nkatha as she woke up with this newly found resolve to quit alcohol drinking.
I woke up, didn't go to remove the hangover. The next day, the next week, the next month, the next year. And because I had been free from alcohol for 6 months at one time in the past, I kept wondering, is it just abstinence or what is it? But when I look back now, and especially in 2022, when God now reminded me of that past, is when I understood it was healing, it was deliverance from the hold of alcoholism, the hold of drug use that had spanned so many years and had cost me almost my life and had damaged so many, relationships. But thank God, during my sobriety years, I was able to make amends with my family and especially my parents, because there were incidents when I was under the influence of alcohol that were very disrespectful, now that I think of it. And so that 2017 was a year of reconciliation, making amends.
Nkatha has since become more intentional with her son as well.
2017 to date I have been a sober, intentional parent. Before I was not available, before I made decisions that were not good, and especially to him. But from 2017, it was deliberate, being there for him, trying as much as I can to walk with him, be there, to speak with him, to help him with his homework, things that I rarely did when I was in active addiction. Bringing him up now as a young Christian, him going to church, him understanding. Now he's much older. He's about 16, so he's knowledgeable. He's curious. He even tells me the trends and the temptations, because he does go out with friends, say for lunches, or they do hang out, and he'll come and tell me, today they were drinking, but I didn't drink. And I tell him, what is the best thing to do? I say, maybe I'll change company. And I'm like, oh yeah, nice, because you need to avoid people, places, and things that would make you use or be of negative influence in your life.
As the Lord continued to speak to Nkatha, it was revealed to her that it was time to share her testimony with the world.
It took 3 days. 3 days of saying, how can I? What will people say? Especially my parents. They'll be associated with a drunkard. They'll be associated now in public. I thought of my career as a renowned nutritionist or a person who's known in that field. How will my colleagues perceive me? I didn't even leave home. I remember on the third day calling my mom and telling her, God has led me in a direction where I need to share my testimony. She's like, I have no business interfering with what your God has. For us, we are happy you're sober. It's been amazing years. And if that's what he wants you to do, go ahead. You have our blessings. I remember speaking to my son because he was now a teenager. And he was like, Mom, that's your life. But what it is that when God calls you, He's not actually telling you, okay, think about it. He's telling you, go. So what happened is, once in that March, on the 4th day, I did a video for my first Instagram that talked of alcohol. I just said, one day I'll tell you how alcohol messed me up. And that's where my advocacy on alcohol harm awareness started.
Today, she leads Grace for Youth Recovery Center, a community-based organization in Kiambu County in Kenya.
August of 2022, we set up Grace for Youth Recovery Center. Why Grace for Youth Recovery Center? Because I'm a product of grace. There's so many times I would have been taken away by death because of the substance. The name was so clear, Grace for Youth Recovery Center, because it is for the youth, and not necessarily for the youth use alone, but the youth have, when you talk about a young person, they have all generations around them. And once you impact the youth, it impacts everyone else around them, the older generations and the younger ones. And then a scripture was brought to my spirit and was in the book of Jeremiah. So our organization is anchored on Jeremiah 17:14 that says, heal me, O Lord, I will be healed. Save me and I will be saved, and we give you praise.
As an alcohol and drug awareness advocate, her advocacy work continues to have an impact as she collaborates with like-minded individuals and organizations.
In the year 2023, we continued with our advocacy, going into the community, going into schools and colleges, and offering initiatives that are sensitive to age. What you'll tell a 7-year-old is not what you'll tell a 15-year-old. So guided by Nkatha as well, because they have the booklets, and they have the trainings available. And then recently in 2024, getting into YouTube to share stories and to host different professionals in that space. But Silent Conversations is more of a testimony, a testifying platform. And we're not limited to mental health or substance use disorders. We're also going to bring people rags to riches, people who are impacting their communities, the societies globally and locally.
I'm so excited to know that she did a turnaround. She stopped taking, and now she's a very big advocate of helping people with similar drinking problems out there. Now she has found a cause. Now she has got a career. And now she has a sense of belonging. And I believe, apart from sense of belonging, Nkatha now is one of the people you would really want to be associated with. I really love being associated with her, what she's doing. When she talks wellness, she talks it from her heart. When she talks about helping people with a problem, she does that. So Nkatha, wherever you are, just know that now you've become a blessing to society, and keep up the good things that you're doing.
As we come to the end of Nkatha's story, she shares a resounding message to anyone out there struggling with drug addiction.
If you have to cut back and you've had conversations with yourself that you need to, then you need to take it seriously. The A stands for annoying. If you ever get annoyed, or people get annoyed because of your substance use, then also it means it is affecting you, and you would need to cut back. You need to stop, because it is just taking you to other station. It's taking you to addiction. It's taking you to the disorder. G stands for guilt. If you feel guilty every time you use, every time you are recovering from the hangover, then it's time you consider stopping the use of these substances. And E stands for eye opener. The first thing when you wake up, you reach out for the substance so that your body can function. Either you have the shakes, either you are fatigued or depressed, then you need to stop using the substance. And the best thing is to reach out for help. You can reach out to us as an organization. We're able to take you through the counseling. We're able to advise you. You can call the toll-free number for Nkatha, which is 1192. They can help you through or advise you on how to stop